Okay, onwards and upwards, on to question 2, and this looks a whole lot more complicated. So I can see that I've got Krebs cycle in the middle, so I'm clearly looking at respiration here. So now I need to look at it in detail, don't I? I need to look at it in detail and annotate my diagram. So I've got glucose coming in, then I'd be using ATP there, and I make hexose phosphate, and then I've got 2,3 carbon molecules, so that's triose phosphate, so it splits, and then we've got, you know, NADH being given off and ATP being given off, and we make it into another 3 carbon compound, pyruvate, so that's what glycolysis is. And then we've got an arrow showing it going into the matrix and some reactions happening here, and then going into Krebs cycle. And what do I know that goes into Krebs cycle? That will be acetyl CoA into the Krebs cycle, round the Krebs cycle. And then I've got this funny letter D here. So what happens in Krebs cycle? I've got carbon dioxide and hydrogen being removed, so, and being passed to NAD or FAD, and I've got some D coming off from this link reaction here, which again could be carbon dioxide or NAD, so I need to have a bit of further think as to which it could be. So I'm going to move down to these 2 arrows. So here I've got the cell membrane, that the glucose is coming in and being made. Then I've got something else that I need from outside of the cell. So that's going to be moving in and then being used, and it seems to be being used by these little dots. So that's where oxidative phosphorylation takes place, so that's oxygen. And then I've got something leaving the cell completely as a waste product, so that leaves me with my carbon dioxide. So now I just need to sort out, right, it's D. Is it NADH or is it FADH? Well, I'm making it from link and from Krebs, so this one is NADH. And I do all of that before I start the, before I start the stuff. And then I'd label that, electron transport chain, and each one of these little dots is ATP synthetase, because this is what the question's going to be about, hopefully. So, identify molecules which are represented by boxes A to F. So A, triose phosphate. B, pyruvate, end product of glycolysis. C, where's C? Acetyl coenzyme A, and I'm going to write that out in full because we don't like abbreviations in exams. D, NADH, or reduced NAD. E, carbon dioxide. I'm not writing that out, my life's too short. And F is oxygen. I think in an exam I'd probably write carbon dioxide in case they wouldn't accept that. So here we go. Give a reason why ATP is used in the process of glycolysis. So this is this bit here, isn't it, that I'm explaining. So ATP is used to phosphorylate glucose and activate it so that glucose splits into triose. There we go. And turning over, oh lovely. So this is pretty much the picture you've got in your book, partly because I've lifted the picture from the question. So the diagram below represents the electron transport chain in an animal cell. So that's a giveaway that we're looking at mitochondria and not chloroplasts. So what's going on here? So we've got protons moving from there to there. So that tells us that this is the intermembrane space. Now do be careful with that. I've seen a lot of inner membrane spaces this exam season. And this is going to be the matrix then. So this is going to be a proton pump. So this represents the path of the electron, and over here we'd have NADH splitting into an electron and a proton and NAD. We've got electron carriers. We need to remember that electron is a high energy electron. So this is going to be fueling the proton pump. This molecule over here, so we've got hydrogen going through, solid line. So that's going to be where it diffuses. So we've got high and we've got low. And this is ATP, synthetase. So the hydrogen dropping out, what this bit is showing us is the hydrogen dropping out, it's joining the electron, it's joined to oxygen and making water. Excellent. So, state precisely where this process takes place. So we've got the intermembrane space on this side and the matrix, and the thing that separates them is the cristae. So, what is the origin of the electrons? Where are they coming from? So I had a lot of people write, you know, oh, NADH and FADH, but actually it's just the hydrogen really that's splitting down to give protons and electrons. So hydrogen carried by NADH splits into protons plus electrons. That's the source of the stuff. So, oh, these look a bit meatier. I've got quite a few lines to write on here. So, as electrons are transferred along the electron transport chain, energy is made available for ATP production. Using the information in the diagram, so I need to refer to the diagram, explain, so that's give reasons how this energy is used to produce ATP. So what am I going to need to talk about on the diagram? I need to talk about the proton pumps. I'm going to need to, because this is going to make that proton gradient. This is making the ATP, but we need to have protons there to diffuse through it. So I need to get all of that information in. So, where to start? So, I'm going to start with high energy electrons. That's my top starting place. High energy electrons are passed along. I had a lot of being passed across, but that's going from there to there, or there to there. Passed along, they're going along the membrane. Electron carriers. In the membrane. As they passed to each pump. They provide energy to the proton pumps. Now this is where we had some issues. So the proton pumps transport protons from the matrix to the intermembrane space. And the issue with this was that then a lot of you, having said that, then went on to tell me that they diffuse across. Well, they can't diffuse across, they're going from low to high. It isn't active transport because we're not using ATP, we're using the energy from the electrons. We don't refer to it as active transport, we refer to it as pumping. So the result of this results in an electro, because there's a charge involved, chemical, because it's a proton, gradient. Protons diffuse through ATP synthetase, and here that's where I would now write, you know, back of book or extra sheet, and then I go to the extra sheets. I'm just going to carry on because otherwise it's too disruptive. And ADP and phosphate are joined to make ATP. So that's kind of a full account. Now you really must know that story that is, you know, so frequently asked for. So, dinitrophenol, whoa, never heard of that. Chemical that was used in the manufacture of explosive during the First World War. It poisoned some of the workers. Oh dear. If dinitrophenol is absorbed into the body, it reduces the quantity of ATP produced by the electron transport chain. So the electron transport chain continues, so it's not stopping, but most of the energy is released in the form of heat. I'm going to talk about that later. Explain why people suffering from the dinitrophenol poisoning experience symptoms such as lack of energy and weight loss. Okay, so I'm going to need to think about this. So if we're not making as much ATP, then we're going to need to do more reactions to try and sort of compensate for that. So we'll be burning up, using more glucose than usual, and therefore we're going to need to get some other respiratory substrates, for example fat, and if you're using up your fat stores, you're going to lose weight. The other thing is that they're going to be releasing most of the energy in the form of heat, so they're going to be warmer, body temperature is going to go up, which means that all your reactions will happen faster. And then lack of energy, obviously they're lacking ATP, so they can't do things like active transport. So now I'm thinking active transport and food, and I'm thinking, can you take as much out of your gut? Can you take as much, can you do as much of that secondary active transport and remove as much glucose? Or do some of it end up in your faeces? Maybe. And you're not going to be able to contract muscles as much. I only need 3 things. So if I write all of that down, I should hit those marking points. So I'll start with weight loss because I think that's the easiest. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll start with lack of ATP. A lack of ATP could mean less glucose is absorbed from the gut as active transport is affected. This could lead to less glycogen or fat stored. ATP is used for muscle contraction. So less ATP would lead to fatigue, and that sort of, it just relates back to this scaffolding bit, sort of way back here. So body temperature rise, increasing rate of respiration, so glucose is used more quickly. Let me just look at that information again. Reduces the quantity of ATP, tick, done that. Energy released in the form of heat, done that. Explain, now need to do the weight loss. So I've got lack of energy, there's fatigue, and weight loss. Other respiratory substrates. So I think here they're getting at, you've got less glucose being absorbed, but you're using it up faster, so you're going to need to use other things like fat stores, would be used up, causing weight loss. So again, really here I should have written back of booklet, extra sheets, whatever, and written that on my extra bit of paper. So that was it, question 2.